Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 10-10-21 broadcast of Mother Mary's messages. My name is Samarah Grace, and I've been channeling Mother Mary for a long time, more than 20 years. So welcome those who are on the call and welcome those who listen later on. It's my joy and my pleasure and my honor to bring through the wisdom of Mother Mary to see if we can navigate these times in a little bit easier way. So in just a second, I'm going to close my eyes and you'll hear my voice change a little bit and Mother Mary will come through. If you need more information about me, I have a website, www.samarahgrace.com. That's SAMARAHGRACE.com. I do private sessions, I do groups and retreats, and it's always my joy to share Mother Mary's wisdom if you need a little help navigating some of the bumps on the road. But these transmissions are my joy and honor to share once a month, to just sort of take the temperature of what's going on in the world and offer to the best of my ability Mother Mary's wisdom and joy for all of us. So without further ado, let me just take a moment and bring her through. Well, hello to everyone, morning, evening, night, wherever you all are. Hello, hello, hello. I think the first thing I want to say is your journey's not over. You may take that in with a smile or you may take it in with a headache, whatever you're feeling, but your journey's not over. And what that really means is that there's a further road still ahead. So I know oftentimes you think, well, you want to know when this might happen or that might happen or the next thing might happen or when will we be back to normal, whatever that was. It's not that linear. You have to understand it's not that linear. It's not like driving from point A to point B. It's a lot more like the space shuttle. So the journey's not over. And if you can pull yourselves a little bit back from the day-to-day difficulties and challenges and noise, if you will, and begin to see really sort of the whole vista of humanity's evolution, the whole vista. You know, all of you studied in school about the cavemen and about the Roman Empire and all these different things. And so you start to realize, you know, this is just kind of a blink in time that we're in right now. So the journey's not over, it's going to continue. And what is the journey and what is the purpose and what are we all doing anyway? That's a longer story than I can share tonight. But what I want to say is that the journey is about the evolution of humanity from limited, power-hungry, frightened, selfish in a way, into a different creation, a kind of garden, if you will, in which humanity has become not cavemen with clubs trying to get their next piece of meat or grab their next woman for their bed, but rather there's a consciousness that has dawned not only within the human heart and mind, but that vision that has dawned, that consciousness that has dawned, begins to then create. So just as everything from the cavemen till now has been a creation, you begin to realize much of it has been created from the perspective of survival. So I'm not saying it's bad or good, just sort of survival, right? If you believe that that other tribe is going to come and take what you need, you will defend, perhaps you will even attack, because it's based on survival. But what is survival based on? Limitation and fear. So much of the history of humanity has been based on limitation and fear, and the resulting actions that were taken with that consciousness. So here we are. It's 2021. What's happening? What you're seeing is sort of an argument. I think that's the simplest way to put it. An argument between those who are still operating from survival, basically fear, and those who want to operate in a different way. So it's already that confusion and that conflict to a certain extent. But complicating it, and here's where I want you to sort of put on your vision, complicating that is even when you have a newer consciousness based on the idea of, shall we say, win-win, the idea of preserving the planet, the idea of helping other countries and other tribes and people to establish their own well-being and be able to go from there. Even if you have that beginnings of that consciousness, there still isn't an infrastructure to land and hold that consciousness. To land and hold that consciousness. And so if you talk about, there's enough food for everyone, why aren't we just giving them the food? You'll begin to hear about things like supply chains and tax benefits and all these other things, which are true and currently exist. So then you might raise your hand and say, well, yes, that's all true, but can't we create something different? And you will still hear a whole panoply of objections to that idea. You're being naive. Perhaps so. So the job, if you will, the part of the journey that you're in right now is sort of threefold. Firstfold, you've got to hold the consciousness that moves beyond survival. We certainly want you to survive, but not to hold every decision from that perspective, because all that does is perpetuate that consciousness. So job one is to say, I'm going to go all the way up to source, soul star, universe, etc. Download into me the templates, the frequencies, and the love available to me, and hold the image of an earth at peace, an earth of plenty, an earth where there's contributions being made all around, and where the commitment is to harmony and well-being for all people. So that's the first truth. The second part of that is to align yourself, ALIGN, align yourself with others who are holding that consciousness, who may have other fields of interest, but that's why you're on this call. They may have other fields of interest, other gifts and talents, but they're holding the consciousness that there is a way, a number of ways to create this brighter world, shall we say. And the third part, when you get ready, is to actually navigate a way to download and live whatever portion of that is currently available and accessible to you. So I'm going to give you an example. So here's Samarah living in Cornville, Arizona, right? Holding that consciousness. And so what she's doing is opening a portal, right? A doorway for all of you to come and say, well, I don't know exactly what I'll do, but I promise to be a higher consciousness for myself and my family and friends in the world. So we don't yet know what the structures are. We haven't yet created the, as I said, the infrastructure for the structures. If you want to build a building, you've got to have a blueprint of what that building would look like. And so what Samarah is doing here is just, in a way, creating a group portal and consciousness to just be you here, listening and then sharing in whatever way comes up from that. So this journey that we're on is quite a long journey for humanity. So it's not going to end next year or the year after. It really isn't. Because if you think about cavemen and you think about where we are now, there's a certain group that really hasn't changed much from believing, as a caveman would, that they have to carry, in this case, guns, AK-47s, whatever, right? To make sure that they'll have what they want, no matter what you want. So step one, raise your own consciousness. Step two, begin to connect with others who share the consciousness, even if you're all sort of involved in medicine, education, environment, different things. And then third, and here's the piece that I'm going to speak about for this coming year. Do something. Do something. Whether that's a Zoom class like this, whether that's planting a garden so that you have tomatoes for yourself and to share with neighbors, whether that's finding in your local community a group or an organization that holds a higher consciousness of helping people, and you are drawn to that and you feel like you want to get engaged with that. That's, it's really just doing something. Because just imagine for a moment, if there's about 100 million of you right now. It's a pretty good number all over the world. So just imagine if 100 million people each began to do something. It will begin to create the infrastructure so more and more people can become engaged in something positive, powerful, and plentiful for all. So again, step one, say go up. Step two, bring it down. Step three, connect with other people. And then step four, as we're moving into the holidays and into next year, is do something. Now, people always think, well, what's this little thing that I could do? Well, how is that going to matter? I promise you, whatever you feel guided to do that comes from this consciousness, it matters. Because whatever you're doing from that consciousness displaces something that might have been done from a different consciousness. So it's incredibly powerful to do. One of the largest vacancies on the planet is kindness. So if nothing else, when you get up in the morning, just say, all right, let me be kind today to my cat, to my neighbor, to the earth, to myself. Let me be kind. Because that is doing something. Because it displaces the idea that instead you would sit there and worry, what could I do? What could I do? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then you get lost in this little chamber called the forehead, where everything starts to coagulate and concentrate and lose any energy of creation. So if nothing else, just be kind. Call someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Drop a card in the mail or an email. Put a nice picture on Facebook, whatever you feel, because what you're doing, as I said, takes the place of worry and inertia, and worse than that, apathy. There's always something. Go take a walk in nature and thank the trees that they still exist. So what you're doing next is realizing I am a higher consciousness of light. That higher consciousness has a contribution to make. And in any given day, I may not know exactly what that is, but my commitment is to do something with that consciousness that feels loving, that feels enlivening, that feels powerful, that feels joyous, because that concentration of light is now in the world being met with other concentrations of light like yourselves. But even when it's met with a contribution of, shall we say, negativity, light displaces darkness. So if you're on your walk and you see someone and they're just kind of, moving along, and you just stop for a second and say, "Good morning, how are you today?" "Oh, yeah, the life can be really hard, but it's a beautiful day. I hope your day gets better." That's it. That's it. So you're not on a soapbox. You're not trying to convince anyone of anything. But what you're doing is staying true to the light that you are to bring. This period of time between now and really, I don't want to scare you, but between now and 2024, 2025 is this place of jockeying, if you will, between the old and the new. And so the way to be happy and stay a force of light is to do the things and share yourself in ways that are enjoyable and keep you in that light. We don't want you to go up against anything or anyone. That just contributes to more and more of that fighting. So that's that part. So now what can we create? All right. I don't know if you think of yourselves. I know Samarah was saying to her cousin Jill a little earlier, she's like the mayor of her little town, Newton Falls. Mm-hmm. But imagine for a moment that you were offered an elected position to be a force of good in your town, whatever your town is, or your neighborhood, or your little group. Right? So you begin to see through the eyes of sort of an increased aspect of respondability, not responsibility, respondability, your ability to respond. And so many communities right now are struggling with homelessness, food insecurity, lack of clothing for homeless people, difficulties with young mothers and children. It's just, there's lots of problems out there. So if you began to think, okay, I'm sort of the anointed and appointed de facto mayor of my little community, what's one situation, advice, place where I could maybe make a difference? What would I care about? And again, this doesn't have to be a full-time job. It's seeing that you, as one of the emissaries of light that you're choosing to be, have that additional respond ability, the ability to respond from a higher place. One of the simplest things, once you're able to gather again, is next time you're having a group, and I know you've done this, Jill, you say, we're collecting cans of food. Bring what you can, and we're going to take it to the local food bank. We're collecting clothing. This is the change of seasons, right? So you set up a time where you even just email your friends if this feels right to you. And you say, I just feel like I've cleaned out my closet and I've got, 3 or 4 big bags of things. I wonder if you might have some, because I'll come by, I'll pick everything up and I'll take it down. In Samarah's community, there's a shelter that helps women who have been victims of domestic violence, and they have a beautiful shop. So, you just call your friends or email them and say, next Tuesday, I'm going to drive by and pick these things up and do that. Now, not everyone will respond, but that's all right. Because what you're now doing is you're demonstrating love in action. You took that in, I felt that. You're demonstrating love in action and a recognition that in your communities, certainly always there are people who are experiencing deprivation. And so whatever extent that feels right to you, it's so easy to do. If you think about how many houses right now are stuffed to the brim with things people haven't looked at in, I don't know, years, right? One of the recent little shows on television that Samarah watched, a woman was feeling very overwhelmed with, how can I make the world a better place? And so she decided to have a huge yard sale, but the sign said, every penny will be translated into acts of kindness. And so I think she made some thousands of dollars, and then she bought the prom dress for a girl who couldn't afford a dress. She took diapers to a mother who didn't, all these small things. And what did she give up? Stuff in the attic that she hadn't looked at in years. So this next part, especially as we move into the holidays, which will be very difficult for some families, just have an eye out for things like that are in your heart and that feel good to do. Because right now, there isn't exactly an infrastructure for delivering things to people, even though there are collection boxes. So what's missing in the supply chain is someone saying, I'm collecting, I'll come by your house, or if you want to drop off your things, I'm having a yard sale, not to just put money in my pocket, but to donate to, whatever. This elevates kindness and a vision of how people can act in the world. It's going to help the people that are currently feeling angry, powerless, frustrated, etc. They want something to do, but they just need someone to say, hey, next Tuesday I'll be by. If you have a box of books or clothing or whatever, cans of food, I'll pick it up and take it over there. It's, again, imagine 100 million people in their communities doing something like that. Wow. These next few years are really about where will you put your energy? On what you don't want or on what you do want? And as you all know from all the readings that you've done, wherever you put your energy, you will experience more of. So if you put your energy in what you don't want, you get more of what you don't want. If you put your energy into what you do want, here comes more. So Santa Claus has already been vaccinated. I have it on very good authority. Because when you think about the energy of who is Santa Claus to children, he is the bearer of love in physical forms, the gifts and presents, aided by elves, right? And who are the elves? You are all the elves. You're all the elves. So you can tell her that Santa Claus has been vaccinated because there is no geography anywhere that is not, that doesn't have the vaccine available, if that is what they would like. And so I want you all to begin to see that these little children who are growing up in an environment really full of fear, right? You know, and there's sort of some evidence that the fear is real on one level, right? And so one of the ways you can help all the children is by involving them in these random acts of kindness. They love it. They love it because it puts the power of change and creation back into their little bodies, right? Right? And when they realize that there are children who won't get toys this year, right? Or people that don't have enough food, you can say, you know what? The real Santa Claus is everywhere, but we can be one of his elves, right? We can be his elves too. And why don't we find out, you know, what's going on and how we could involve ourselves with that? Because the children growing up today will not have the same childhoods that you all had. They don't. They don't. But what they're learning, the reason that they're going through some of this is not to suffer, not to be held in fear, but to find their own power to change it. So as mothers and fathers and uncles and aunts and cousins and all of that, you can help them. You can say, hey, this is what we're doing. Would you like to help out? You know, again, there's so many different things you can do. But when they proudly open their lemonade stand or collect 10 cans or whatever they do, and then if it's appropriate, go with you to take them to the place, what they see is that they have the power. And that's what you want for them, right, Carmel? You want them to feel powerful and not afraid in the world. So all of this argument is really about how you view the world. And do you view the world as a place potentially of miracles and abundance? Or do you view the world as a fearful jungle where you have to protect yourself, right? And more what we want to show the children and all of us is that it's not a jungle unless we let it be a jungle. And we let it be a jungle when we hide and don't engage and don't participate in whatever ways feel right to us. So the next few years aren't about you arguing, should you have a vaccine, shouldn't you have a vaccine, should you wear a mask, shouldn't you wear a mask. Do what you feel, each of you is right. Do what you feel. And realize whatever someone else is doing, that's what they're believing in. And that's their right. That's their right. So we create a world we dream of, the world we dream of, by dreaming, but then doing what you can. So for all the children, and I encourage any of you that are close to or know teachers in your communities to just say, if it's appropriate or when it's appropriate, I would love to come in and talk to the kids about gathering cans for the food bank. And I'll be in charge of it. I don't want to give you another job. I'll come in, I'll talk to the classroom, we'll set up the timing. They can go home and tell their parents. And we'll take pictures, if you can't take the children with you, of these massive number of cans being delivered to the food bank and the smiles behind the masks, if that's what's happening, of the workers there. It's a time of action, love in action, not argument, love in action. And I want to also say, there's a lot of us. There's a lot of you, but there's a lot of us. But we are not in the physical plane in the same way that you are. So as much as I love all the prayers and the rosaries and the petitions you all do, and you know, it's fine, but we need you. We need you to do whatever's in your heart to do, and to recognize that this is the path of love that you are choosing, to create a world that has more love, so that fear becomes sort of a memory, a distant memory. But again, not through argument, through example. I'm very proud of all of you. I really am. I know when I say things like this, I feel some of you going, oh boy, you know, I'm probably get like a C- on this one. It's not so. It's not so. It's just this evolution. So all of you have worked very diligently to stay as positive as you can in a difficult time, So we're proud of all of you. All we're doing today is inviting you to recognize from the long view where the world is, and of course where it isn't. But in these next few years, as more and more of you do whatever is in your hearts and minds to do to bring in not only the infrastructure, we've had charities for a long, long time, and that's lovely. But this isn't charity. This is love in action. So it's a bit different. People who see charity as sort of their duty because they're rich or something miss the point. They miss the point. The point is to really feel the power of your love in action. However much money or however many cans or how many bags of clothing, we're not up here counting. What we are counting on is your participation and your willingness to just organize something, and then to be so happy and proud of your contribution to the greater light that is here. I'll end with something that I've said a few times to Samarah. I've said actually two things. I've said many things to Samarah, but so your presence is your present. Your presence is your light. It's your present, meaning your current experience, but it's also your present as in your gift. Your presence is your present. So gift it generously and lovingly. And the other thing to remember, in the absence of resistance, reluctance, and regret, miracles occur naturally. So how do we get rid of resistance, reluctance, and regret? You can tell Samarah's a teacher, we go back to the beginning, we go up, we go in, and we go out. That's how to be rid of resistance, reluctance, and regret. You just become the part of God that you are, and you say, looks like Christmas is coming or Thanksgiving is coming. I'm sure there's lots of people that don't have enough food. And yes, the grocery stores are collecting, and that's lovely. But call some of your neighbors or friends and say, I know you may or may not be going to the grocery store. Maybe you're ordering online or whatever, but I really feel like going this year. So I'll buy on Tuesday morning. If you don't want to come out your door, just set the bags on the porch and I'll pick them up and let you know how it went. So you don't let not only your own resistance, but their resistance stop you. You create a way through. And from that, now you can begin to feel the fields of light shimmering with your love and your love and your love, your love. And isn't that what we all want? A world with more love. I know some of you may have some comments or questions, and Samarah is very kind about ending the recording so you can have them in confidence. So to all that are going to watch the recording, I just want to say, you are a light. Bring it, and share it, and be love in action. So goodbye for now. We're just going to turn off the recording. Much love. Namaste from Samarah and Mother Mary.